The chains were cold around Leo Kane's wrists. He had been captured 3 days ago, thrown into a steel cage on a planet he didn't know. His ship had crashed in the outer rim after a surprise attack. Now he was trapped underground in what looked like a dungeon carved from black stone. Strange lights pulsed on the walls, and alien voices echoed through the halls. He sat in silence, waiting for something, anything. He didn't know if help was coming, or if Earth even knew he was alive. But that night, something changed. A new prisoner was dragged in, thrown into the cell next to his. She hit the ground hard, and the guards laughed as they walked away. She didn't speak at first, just lay there breathing slowly. Leo stared through the bars, trying to see her face. Her skin was silver blue, and her eyes glowed faintly even. In the dark, she looked young, maybe his age, with thin ropes tied tight around her wrists and ankles. "Are you hurt?" Leo asked gently. The girl looked up, eyes wide, surprised that he spoke to her. "You speak?" she said quietly, her voice like music. Leo nodded. "Yeah, I'm human, name's Leo." She paused, then said, "I'm Kayla." Her voice shook like she hadn't spoken in a long time. "You shouldn't talk to me," she added, turning her head away. "Why not?" Leo asked, confused. She didn't answer right away, then whispered, "They plan to kill me tomorrow." Leo froze. "Why?" he asked, moving closer to the bars. "I helped someone escape," she said. "They say I betrayed my kind." Her hands were trembling, but her voice was steady. Leo could see the fear in her eyes, the kind of fear that never lies. "You don't look like a traitor," he said. "I'm not," she replied. "But they don't care." Silence filled the air again, heavy and cold. Outside, he heard footsteps and the sound of metal doors closing. They were alone now, deep underground, with no one watching. Leo leaned closer and whispered, "We'll get out of here." Kayla looked at him like he was insane. "You can't," she said. "Even I gave up hope." But Leo didn't. He had survived battles, storms, and betrayal. He wasn't going to let this girl die without trying. All night, he watched the guards, counted their steps, and studied the door. He found a sharp bone in the corner of his cage, probably from the last unlucky prisoner. He didn't hesitate, started working on the rusty lock on his cage. It took hours, but by morning, the lock clicked open. He moved fast and silent, slipping out of his cage. Kayla stared in shock as he rushed to her cell. "Don't," she said. "You'll get caught." "I don't leave people behind," Leo whispered. He broke the lock on her cell too, and then the ropes around her wrists. Kayla gasped, rubbing her arms. "You're crazy," she said, but followed him anyway. The halls outside were dimly lit and silent. Every step they took could be their last, but Leo didn't slow down. He didn't have a plan, just a mission. Get out, save the girl, survive. They passed strange statues with glowing eyes and doors that hummed softly. Kayla guided him toward a secret tunnel she remembered from her childhood. "It leads to the jungle," she whispered, "but it's dangerous." "Better than dying in a cage," Leo said. But just as they reached the tunnel's entrance, an alarm screamed through the base, red lights flashed, and the sound of marching boots filled the hall. "They know," Kayla said, her voice breaking. "Then we run," Leo replied, grabbing her hand. They sprinted through the tunnel as shadows followed behind them. Kayla tripped, and Leo caught her, pulling her to her feet. The tunnel opened into the wild jungle, thick with glowing plants and sharp sounds. They didn't stop, didn't look back. By the time they slowed down, the sun was rising, and Leo's heart was pounding. Kayla looked at him with something between fear and wonder. "You stepped into danger for someone you just met," she said. Leo smiled weakly. "Yeah, well, I'm human." Kayla looked at him again, longer this time. Then she said, "Maybe that's what makes you different, but behind the trees." Something was watching them, and the real danger had just begun. The morning light touched the trees with a strange green glow, but Leo and Kayla didn't stop moving. Bird-like creatures screeched above them. and the ground shook with the steps of something large and unseen. Kayla walked with a limp, her arms still sore from the tight ropes. Leo checked his injured wrist again. It was swelling, but he ignored the pain. They had escaped, but not safely. They were still being hunted. Kayla led Leo through thick vines and tall roots, her eyes scanning everything. "This part of the jungle used to be sacred," she said softly, "but now it belongs to beasts." Leo glanced behind them. "I'll take beasts over guards." Kayla didn't answer, but her silence was full of worry. She knew something he didn't, and he could feel it. By midday, they reached a hidden cave behind a waterfall. Inside, it was dry and dark, and the sound of water outside helped hide their voices. Leo dropped to the ground, finally resting. Kayla sat beside him, wrapping her arms around her knees. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You could have left me." "I didn't crash on this planet to watch someone else die," Leo replied. She smiled, a small one, but real. Then her face turned serious. "But now you are marked." Leo raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "The council will not forget this," she whispered. "You touched someone with Forbidden's blood." Leo stared at her. "You're more than just a prisoner, aren't you?" Kayla hesitated, her eyes glowing a little brighter. "I'm the daughter of a high bloodline, a mix of old power and new science," she said. "My birth was not welcomed." Leo leaned forward. "So they locked you up because you're special?" Kayla nodded. "They fear what I can become." Suddenly, there was a loud crack from the jungle, like a tree being split. Leo jumped to his feet, hand on the bone dagger he had taken from the cell. Kayla's face went pale. "They found us." Tall shadow appeared at the cave's mouth, followed by two more alien soldiers in black armor, holding crossbows powered by energy cells. Leo stepped in front of Kayla, heart pounding. "Go," he whispered, "back through the waterfall." She didn't move. "I won't leave you. Just trust me," he said firmly. As Kayla ran through the back tunnel, Leo stood tall, gripping the dagger. The soldiers raised their weapons. He rushed them, yelling loudly to draw their attention. The first arrow missed, but the second hit his leg. Still, he pushed forward, slashing at the nearest guard. Pain roared through his body, but he kept fighting. One of the guards tackled him, slamming him to the cave wall. Leo's head spun, blood dripping down his face, but he smiled, because Kayla was gone safe for now. The guards dragged him out of the cave and tied his hands. One of them spoke in a deep, metallic voice. "You are brave, human, but foolish." Leo spat blood. "Tell that to the one who got away." They hit him again, but he didn't scream. They didn't understand humans yet. They didn't know that even pain could be a weapon. Far away, Kayla moved through the dark tunnel, tears in her eyes. She wanted to turn back to fight, but her powers were weak and fading, the light inside. Her only woke when danger came, but now it felt far. She whispered Leo's name again and again, like a prayer. Her hands shook, and the ground under her feet began to glow slightly. Outside the cave, the guards prepared to call for a pickup ship. Leo lay on the ground, barely breathing, but still smiling through the pain. Then the air changed. A soft wind blew through the trees, though there was no storm. The birds went silent, and even the insects stopped singing. A blinding light shot from the jungle, hitting the guards like a wave. They screamed and fell, their armor melting, their weapons turning to dust. Leo opened his eyes, barely able to lift his head. Through the smoke, Kayla stepped out, eyes burning with golden light. She didn't speak, didn't blink, just moved forward like fire in human form. She dropped to her knees beside Leo and placed her hands on his wounds. The light flowed from her into him, and the pain began to fade. "You came back," he whispered. "I couldn't leave you," she replied, voice shaking. As Leo's vision cleared, he saw the jungle trees slowly bowing, as if the planet itself was responding to her power. Kayla looked around, breathing hard. "This power, it's waking up," she said, "and I don't know what will happen next." Leo grabbed her hand, squeezing it weakly. "Then we find out together," he said, and in that moment, surrounded by broken enemies and strange light, they both knew this was only the beginning. The wind howled through the jungle, pushing leaves into a frantic dance. Leo leaned against a tree, his leg still aching where the arrow had struck. The pain was dull now, thanks to Kayla, but his strength hadn't fully returned. She sat a few feet away, silent, watching the sky turn from blue to violet. Her eyes didn't glow anymore. But the memory of what she did was fresh in Leo's mind. She had destroyed trained warriors without touching them. She had become something terrifying and beautiful. Neither of them spoke for a while. Their breathing was slow, their minds racing. Kayla finally broke the silence. "I didn't know I could do that," she whispered. Leo looked at her, eyebrows raised. "You turned them into smoke." She shook her head. "I felt something inside me break open, like a door I didn't know was locked." Leo winced as he shifted. Whatever it was, it saved us. Kayla looked down at her hands. "But what if I can't control it next time?" Leo paused, then said, "Then I'll be there to stop you." She smiled sadly. "You'd step into fire for me, wouldn't you?" "I already did," he replied, tapping the bandage on his leg. They needed shelter, food, and time to think. But more than that, they needed answers. Why had her power awakened now? Why only when she was near Leo? They followed an old trail Kayla remembered from her childhood. She said it led to the ruins of a village one that had been wiped out during a purge. Leo didn't ask what that meant. He could see the pain in her eyes whenever she spoke of the past. The trail curved around a river with water that shimmered like silver. Strange lights flickered beneath the surface fish, or something more. Kayla touched a tree, and it opened slightly, revealing berries hidden inside the bark. Leo took one, sniffed it, then bit in. It was sweet and warm, almost like bread. "You're full of surprises," he said. Kayla nodded. "This world has secrets most have forgotten by nightfall." They reached the edge of the ruined village. Broken towers leaned to the side, and crumbled stone paths were buried under moss. Statues with cracked faces stood among the rubble, watching silently. Kayla's steps slowed. "I lived here once," she said, her voice distant. "My mother taught me to hide my light." Leo walked beside her, careful not to ask too much. They found shelter inside what used to be a school. Vines hung from the ceiling, and parts of the roof had caved in. Still, it was dry, and for now, safe. Leo sat near a wall and started fixing his bandage with a torn strip of Kayla's cloak. Suddenly, Kayla gasped, her eyes fixed on something in the corner. Leo followed her gaze and saw a small mark on the wall. It was a symbol 3 stars above. A rising sun. Kayla knelt beside it, touching the carved stone with shaking fingers. "This is my family's crest," she whispered. "They erased everything, but this survived." She sat there, frozen, memories flooding her face. Leo moved closer. "Kayla, what happened here?" She didn't look at him, only whispered. "They came one night, the council's soldiers. They said our blood was dangerous." She closed her eyes. "I was 9. Leo put a hand on her shoulder, silent. "There were no words strong enough for that kind of pain." Suddenly, a faint buzzing filled the air. Leo stood up quickly, looking toward the doorway. In the sky, a drone hovered, its red eye blinking. Kayla's body tensed. "It's a scout," Leo grabbed a fallen spear from the floor. "How do we stop it?" Kayla didn't answer. Instead, her eyes glowed again, but dimmer this time. The drone fired a small bolt of energy toward them. Leo stepped in front of Kayla without thinking, the blast grazing his side. He dropped to one knee, groaning, but not falling. Kayla's eyes burned brighter now, and a pulse of light shot from her hands. The drone sparked and fell from the sky like a dead bird. Leo clutched his side. "I really have to stop doing that." Kayla knelt beside him, pressing her hand to his ribs. The warmth returned gentle, healing, but she looked exhausted. "You're draining yourself," Leo said. Kayla nodded slowly. I'm learning. But it's still too much. They knew more drones would come. The explosion would alert the nearby hunters. Leo looked around the ruins. Then at Kayla. We can't stay here, he said. No, she agreed. But there's one place left deep in the west where the old ones once walked. More ruins? He asked. More than ruins, she said. A secret. Something the council fears. Leo stood, still sore but ready. He glanced at the broken drone, then at the girl who had become his only hope. Whatever waited in the west, they would face it together, because in the jungle, under flying arrows and burning skies, he had already made his choice. And Kayla was no longer running alone. The sky turned orange as they crossed the last ridge. Below them stretched a dry plain covered with bones, broken machines, and scorched. Black soil that looked like something terrible had once lived here and died screaming. Kayla stopped at the edge and closed her eyes. This place remembers pain, she said softly. Leo looked around and nodded. Yeah, I can feel it too. They had been walking for 2 days without sleep. Kayla's glow was weaker now, flickering like a fading flame. Leo had taken more wounds, nothing serious, but enough to make him limp. Still, neither of them slowed down. They were chasing something only Kayla could sense. She said it was west of the old ruins, in a place her mother once called the Breathless Gate. Leo didn't ask why it was named that. He already had a bad feeling about it. Halfway through the plain, they heard humming from above. Leo looked up and cursed. 4 dark ships broke through the clouds, shaped like blades. Their engines didn't roar, they whispered, like voices crawling under the skin. Kayla's face went pale. They found us, she said. The ships circled once, then dropped metal pods from the sky. Each pod slammed into the ground and opened with a hiss. Out stepped tall figures in black armor, faces hidden behind silver masks. They moved in silence, their weapons glowing with red light. Leo grabbed Kayla's hand and pulled her behind a pile of wreckage. We can't fight them here, he said. They're not here to fight. Kayla whispered. They're here to take me. The soldiers moved quickly, spreading out in a pattern. They were trained, not just hunters. They were royal enforcers. Leo had heard of them before in old space records. They didn't ask questions, didn't talk. They just took what the council wanted. A voice boomed from a speaker mounted on one of the ships. It was deep and smooth, like poison wrapped in silk. Kayla of the Silent Flame, the voice said. Your freedom ends here, by the order of Varnick. Leo's chest tightened. That name again, Varnick. He didn't know what kind of monster Varnick was, but he knew one thing. He would never let Kayla be taken. He turned to her. Can you run? Kayla looked tired, but nodded. Leo pulled her close. Then we move now. They ran through the wrecks, weaving between rusted tanks and broken towers. Energy bolts zipped past them, setting the ground on fire. Leo fired back with a small blaster he had taken from a dead scout. The shots barely slowed the soldiers down. Kayla stumbled once, and Leo caught her. Don't stop, he said. We're almost there. But they weren't. A figure dropped down in front of them from the lead ship. He wore black armor with golden edges, and his mask was shaped like a screaming face. Kayla froze, whispering, That's him. Leo raised his weapon, but the figure raised one hand. The blaster melted in Leo's grip, turning into smoke. Pain shot through his hand, but he didn't drop his stance. You must be the human, the figure said, voice low and cruel, the one she chose over her own kind. Leo stepped forward, ignoring the pain. Leave her alone, he growled. The masked figure tilted his head, amused. You don't even know what she is, he said. Leo didn't blink. I know enough. Kayla moved beside Leo, her glow returning slightly. The figure looked at her. You could have ruled beside me, Kayla. You were born from the flame, not to hide among dirt and stars. Kayla's eyes narrowed. I wasn't born to destroy the weak, she said. I was born to protect them. The figure's voice turned cold. So be it, he said. He raised his arm, and a long blade of red light formed in his hand. Leo pushed Kayla back, stepping in front of her. Again, just like before, the blade came down and hit something invisible. Kayla's light had grown into a shield, surrounding them both in a glowing sphere. The blade crackled and hissed, unable to break through. The figure stepped back in shock. Kayla's body began to lift off the ground. Her feet no longer touched the earth. The symbols on her skin glowed like stars, and her voice returned. As a whisper, but as thunder, "You will not touch him," she said. The light exploded outward, knocking the enemy flat. Ships shook in the air, their engines flickering. Leo fell to his knees, shielding his face. When the light faded, Kayla dropped beside him. Barely conscious, he caught her before she hit the ground. The enemy had vanished, gone in fear. But Leo knew they would return. He held Kayla closer, breathing faint but steady. "Whatever power you carry," he whispered, "I'll stand between you and the world, even if it scars me forever." The rain started without warning. It fell hard and fast, washing blood and dust from Leo's face as he carried Kayla through the broken plains. She didn't move, her body limp in his arms, her glow barely visible under the storm. He stumbled across the uneven ground, feet sinking in the mud. Behind them, smoke rose from the crashed scout ship, still burning. The enemy had left, but not for long. Kayla had saved them again, but this time, the power had taken something from her. He felt it when she collapsed into his arms, her light dimming like a dying star. "Hold on," Leo whispered, tightening his grip. "You're not leaving me." Now ahead, a ridge of black stone rose from the earth like broken teeth. Kayla had spoken of it before, the Breathless Gate, a place older than war, older than the council. It had no doors, no path, only silence, but she said it would open for her. He reached the base of the ridge and saw carvings in the rock, symbols that matched the glowing marks on Kayla's skin. He stepped forward, his heart pounding. The rain soaked him to the bone, but he didn't stop. "Let me in," he shouted at the wall. "Please, she needs help." There was no sound, but the stone shifted. The carvings lit up one by one, pulsing with soft blue light. A doorway formed where there was none before. Leo stepped inside, the light guiding his way. The door closed silently behind him, sealing out the storm. Inside was a chamber carved from smooth black crystal. It hummed softly, alive with some old energy. Leo placed Kayla gently on a raised platform in the center. He backed away, unsure, afraid he had done something wrong. Then the light changed. Beams of white mist rose from the floor and surrounded Kayla's body. They didn't touch her, only circled. Her chest rose slowly, her glow flickered, and then she opened her eyes. Leo exhaled sharply, relief flooding his chest. "You're awake," he said, stepping closer. Kayla looked around, confused, then slowly sat up. "This place," she whispered. "I remember it." She stood, touching one of the walls. "This is where I was made." Leo blinked. "Made?" Kayla nodded. "Not born like others. My kind was created from the flame. Each of us had a purpose." Leo didn't know what to say. He had heard stories of ancient beings living weapons designed by long-forgotten civilizations, but he never thought he'd fall in love with one. Kayla walked to the center of the chamber and held her hand up. A hologram appeared, planets, stars, maps of lost galaxies. She pointed at one small dot glowing red. "That's where Varnak keeps the others," she said. "My sisters, the ones who didn't escape." Leo's voice was quiet. "You want to save them." Kayla turned to him, her eyes bright again. "I have to," she said. "They were made like me, but twisted. If Varnak uses them, the galaxy won't survive." He nodded slowly, already knowing what his answer would be. "I'll help you," he said. Kayla stepped closer. "You've already given so much." Leo smiled. "Then I'll give more." The wall shifted again, revealing an ancient chamber behind them. Inside were relics, armor, weapons, strange machines humming with power. Kayla stepped toward a glowing suit of armor resting on a black stone. "It was made for the one who guards the flame," she said. "Someone who burns, but does not break." Leo stared at it. Me? Kayla smiled. Only if you choose it. He touched the armor, and the pieces floated around him. They moved like water, wrapping around his limbs, fitting perfectly. When it was done, he didn't feel heavy or slow. He felt alive. The suit responded to his thoughts, his pain, his purpose. He was no longer just a man. Kayla stepped beside him, her light fully restored. Together, they stood in silence, two sparks ready to light the dark. The chamber faded behind them, and the gate opened again. The storm had passed. The air was still. In the distance, stars fell from the sky. No, not stars, ships. The final battle was coming. Varnak had waited long enough. Kayla looked at Leo, her voice calm and steady. Are you ready? Leo reached for her hand, lacing his fingers with hers. I was ready the moment I stepped in front of those arrows. They walked toward the rising light, no fear in their hearts. The enemy was stronger. The odds impossible, but they had something Varnak never would. A bond that no weapon could break. The stars above the battlefield didn't shine. They burned. Dozens of ships hovered in orbit, dark and massive, blocking the sky like floating mountains. On the surface below, the world shook as Varnak's army marched forward. Thousands of soldiers, machines, and creatures moved as one. The ground trembled beneath their steps. At the top of a cliff, Leo stood in his new armor, silent and still. The suit pulsed gently with blue light, a perfect match to the glow in Kala's eyes beside him. They had reached the last edge of safety. Beyond it, only war waited. Kayla didn't look afraid, but Leo could see her fingers trembling slightly. She was powerful, yes, but even power has limits. And what was coming now wasn't just a battle, it was a storm. Below, Varnak's command ship landed with a slow hiss. The ground cracked beneath its weight. From its mouth came the armored tyrant himself, tall and wide, his cloak dragging through the dust. His face was still hidden behind that golden mask, but his voice echoed through the hills. Kayla, he called, and the human who would stand between me and destiny. Leo stepped forward to the edge of the cliff, voice steady. We're not hiding anymore. Kayla joined him, her voice louder than it had ever been. Let them come. The army surged forward. A tidal wave of metal and rage. Leo took Kayla's hand, and together they jumped from the cliff. The air screamed around them. Kayla's light expanded, forming a shield as they hit the ground like thunder. The impact shook the battlefield. Machines stumbled, soldiers fell back, and from the dust rose the two who refused to kneel. Leo moved like he had trained for this his whole life. The armor responded faster than thought, absorbing energy blasts and striking with perfect force. Every move he made was sharp, clear, filled with purpose. Beside him, Kayla didn't fight with fists or weapons. She sang not with her mouth, but with her light. Every time her glow pulsed, enemies dropped to their knees. Their weapons melted, their will broken. But Varnak did not move. He watched from the edge, calm and patient. He had waited years for this moment. He did not fear her power. He had once created it. Leo pushed forward, deeper into the heart of the enemy. His armor cracked, his body bled, but he didn't stop. He had one goal: reach Varnak and end this. Kayla followed, growing dimmer with each step. Her light healed him, but it came at a cost. Each wound she closed on Leo opened a weakness in her own body. Still, she stayed beside him. Finally, they reached the dark platform where Varnak waited. He raised his hand, and the battlefield fell silent. His soldiers stopped, frozen by his command. Kayla swayed, barely able to stand now. Leo stepped forward, rage and love burning inside him. You took everything from her, he said. You'll never touch her again. Varnak removed his mask, revealing a face not aged by time but twisted by power. His skin was cracked stone, eyes glowing red with stolen light. I gave her life, he said, voice deep and cruel. I made her strong, and she betrayed me for a human. She chose hope, Leo said. Varnak raised his hand, a storm of energy forming above it. Then hope will die with you. He struck, faster than thought. The blast of pure destruction shot toward Leo like a comet. Kayla screamed not aloud, but in energy, her body moved on instinct. Stepping in front of Leo, the blast hit her, and the world turned white. For a second, there was no sound, no ground, no sky. Just blinding light. Then it faded. Kayla stood in front of Leo, shaking, smoking. Her glow was nearly gone. Her skin burned, but she still stood. Leo caught her as she fell backward, her body going limp. Her eyes met his one last time. I chose you, she whispered, and then she stopped glowing. Leo's scream tore through the battlefield. Something inside him cracked wide open. The armor reacted, feeding on his pain. It changed, glowing gold now. Wrapped in the last light Kayla had given him, Leo rose, eyes filled with fire. Varnak stepped back, unsure for the first time. You should have left her alone, Leo said, voice like a weapon, and he charged. The battle that followed was not fair. It was fury. Leo moved with the strength of two souls. Every strike shattered armor. Every punch broke bone and stone. He didn't stop until Varnak lay broken at his feet. The tyrant gasped, whispering, "What are you?" Leo knelt beside Kayla's still body. He touched her face, then looked up at the stars. "I'm the one who loved her," he said, and for that, he would carry every scar. The sun rose over the hills like it was trying to apologize. Smoke still drifted through the trees, but the fire had died. The sky was blue again, soft and quiet, as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Jace lay in the center of the ruined camp, his body broken, his face pale. He had lost a lot of blood, too much. His chest rose slowly with every breath, like the weight of the world sat on him. Lyra knelt beside him, her hands glowing with a soft golden light. She whispered ancient words, the old voice flowing like wind over stone. The light moved from her fingers into his chest, warming his skin. His scars stayed, but the bleeding stopped. The pain faded. His eyes opened slowly, and he saw her face, first tired, dirty, but beautiful. "You're still here," he whispered. "I told you I would be," she answered, brushing mud from his cheek. All around them, the rebels, what was left of them, stood in silence. They had watched Lyra burn machines with a single word: destroy. Ships without lifting a weapon. Now they looked at her not as a girl, not as royalty. They looked at her like a queen, a power, a symbol that could change everything. But her eyes were only on Jace. She helped him sit up, careful not to touch the worst wounds. One of the elders stepped forward. A wise woman with one eye and a staff made of bone. She looked at Jace and then at Lyra, her voice rough but calm. "You carry the bond," she said. "The old one, between protector and flame." Lyra nodded once, her eyes shining with soft light. "I don't want a crown," Lyra said. "I don't want thrones or titles," the elder smiled. "Then take something greater." She raised her hand, and the circle of survivors stepped back, forming a ring at the center. Lyra turned to Jace and held out her hand. He looked at it unsure. He had fought for her, bled for her, nearly died for her. But this was different. This was her choosing him, not out of need, not out of safety, but out of truth. He reached out slowly and took her hand. The ground beneath them lit up with gold and silver patterns, ancient and alive. The sky darkened for a moment, and then a wave of warm wind swept across the valley. The bond was sealed not just between them, but between two worlds. In the weeks that followed, word of the event spread like fire. Humans and aliens from distant lands came to see for themselves. They saw the warrior with scars like stories carved into flesh, and the girl who could speak to the stars. Together, they rebuilt what was broken, not just buildings, but trust. Jace trained others to defend, not destroy. Lyra taught the old voice to those who would listen with open hearts. Peace didn't come easily, but it began, and that was enough one evening. As the two sat near the edge of a cliff overlooking the new village, Jace traced the scar on his arm, the one from the first arrows. Lyra leaned on his shoulder, silent for a while. Then she said, "Do you regret it?" He looked at her, then at the stars above. "Every scar is proof I made the right choice," he said. She smiled, her fingers wrapping around his. "You stepped in front of death for me," she whispered. "And now I live every day for you." Wind moved through the trees like a song. Far below, the fires of war were fading, and the light of something new was rising. Two people had changed the course of a world one arrow at a time, and the reward was more than survival, more than peace, more than power. The reward was each other, and for Jace, every scar was worth it.